The nation's top energy advisor, Kerry Schott, has today stirred up the energy wars, calling on all governments to rewrite the rules of a power system she says is no longer fit for purpose. Now, the Energy Security Board chair has warned that our traditional baseload power source, coal-fired stations, will close at a rapid rate, more rapidly than we think. And renewables, she says, will play a bigger role. But that could also lead to higher prices and an unreliable national power grid. Think blackouts. Are Australians prepared for that, do you think? I caught up with Federal Energy Minister Angus Taylor late this afternoon. Kerry Schott says that the electricity market is in desperate need of reform. Is this code for we need to replace coal with renewables?
No, it's not. It's we need a balance in the system, Chris. So the reports that came out today, I think, send a very clear message. Number one is we're seeing good progress on prices coming down. We need to see that flowing through to all consumers. That hasn't been the case, but we've seen it for many. And that push needs to continue onwards. But it's also telling us we're losing balance in the system. We need that dispatchable generation, that reliable generation that flicks on when people flick on their light switch, that's there night and day whether the wind's blowing or not. And that balance is what's absolutely crucial to making sure the system keeps going. And it's not that you necessarily run out of power. You have all sorts of technical problems if you don't have enough of that reliable, dispatchable generation in the system. That could be coal, that can be gas, that can be hydro, that can even for short periods be batteries, although the costs have got to come down significantly before they can play a really significant role. But that balance in the system is the key. That's Kerry Schott's point. I agree wholeheartedly with it. There's much we are doing on this front, and much of the recent gains we've seen is we haven't been seeing that big loss of coal-fired generators like we saw in Victoria with Hazelwood, but there are many dangers ahead and we have to really manage those dangers very carefully.
And she points that out. She says that coal-fired power stations will close quicker than what we think they will. So you've got to somehow encourage the market to take up gas, don't you?
Well, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. There needs to be balance in the system. If a coal-fired generator is getting to the point where it can't keep going, it needs to be replaced with like-for-like generation. We've said that all along. The next in line to close, just because of its age and it is running into serious problems, is Liddell in the Hunter Valley. And we've said we'll replace that with a gas generator if the private sector doesn't. We'd prefer the private sector step up. If they do step up, we'll step back. But otherwise, we'll step in. You need to have that balance in the system. Now, there's a whole series of things we've already done to drive that. There's more that needs to be done, and this is the point that the ESB, who's put out this report today, has made, and Kerry Schott has made. There's a lot more work to do, but this has to be the top priority.
I want to go back to what New South Wales did prior to Christmas and came up with its own energy plan without even discussing it with you or the Prime Minister or anyone from the federal government. She talks about, Kerry Schott that is, she talks about a patchwork series of reforms. She's absolutely right if we've got one state going it alone and not talking to the feds about what's ahead in the future.
Well, and of course, that's not the first time it's happened. We've seen over recent years, over many years, the Queenslanders, Victorians, ACT, of course, has set its own 100% renewable energy target, and this has been the pattern of state.
But we're on a national grid. We're on a national grid
for a long, long time. Well, absolutely right, Chris. And so the point of the work that the ESB is doing is to say, look, let's all rally around a common set of reforms, an agreed set of reforms that means you don't wander off on your own and do your own thing. And that is absolutely crucial. That's why we're behind this work. We very strongly believe it needs to be done right. What's gone out today is a directions paper laying out the areas that need to be focus. Alongside that, of course, we are doing things like investing in generation ourselves as a federal government, and we'll continue to do that. But ultimately, the balance in the system is the key here, and we need state governments working with us through National Cabinet. This is where it's being run from now, to make sure we keep that balance in the system, and we don't have states running off doing things which are at odds with this overriding framework.
Because the more we see of that, correct me if I'm wrong, the more we see of that, the more chances we have of prices increasing yet again, despite what we've been able to achieve recently, and also a future full of blackouts.
No, exactly right. The lights don't stay on. Of course, prices go up. And we've seen this. Look, you know, the report that came out today made the point that in the last 12 months, we've seen over 250 interventions by the market operator where they've had to override the market.
Yeah.
So that would be, for instance, saying to a South Australian wind generator, you've just got to switch off because we can't handle your power in the grid. It's too much of a surge. And that's happening time and time again. 4 years ago, that barely happened at all. So we do have a problem. That's why we're doing what we're doing as a federal government. That's why we're making sure that when Liddell closes, it's properly replaced with like-for-like capacity. And it's why we are focused on ensuring that these reforms that the ESB is putting forward are driven to keep that balance in the system.
And do you think the process we've been through with a national cabinet will assist this idea of coming together as one?
I do. I mean, we had a meeting just before Christmas and very good outcomes from that. We looked at these directions paper, and of course there was strong agreement from all ministers that this is the direction we need to go in, and we'll continue to lead that and push that. But it does mean that we have to coordinate around this approach. And your point you made earlier is absolutely right. And look, people's lives and jobs depend on this, Chris. We're not playing games here. I mean, if you look at the heavy manufacturing sector in this country, aluminium smelters, steel mills, petroleum refineries, they depend on affordable energy. And if we don't get this right, we're putting these people out of work. And to me, that is absolutely unacceptable, as well as just helping small businesses and households to make ends meet. And, you know, right now it's been a very tough year last year. And of course, it's not over yet for small businesses and many households. And we have to make sure that they can make ends meet. This work is enormously important to those very important jobs and those very important needs.